Next, we go to best character. Last year, I chose Gunther. The three of you chose the final boss, Dwayne Johnson. I don't think we're going to be repeating although I could have gone with Gunther. He was on my short list. But I'm echoing some of Davies' earlier sentiments. I went with Jon Moxley. To me, like, people were very low on the Death Riders this time last year. And it ended up, first of all, for all the complaints about Moxley during the first half of the year, it's like their pay-per-view numbers stayed remarkably consistent, and I think he does deserve credit for that. And then when the Owen Hart tournament began, and suddenly people saw the end of this Death Riders thing, and who's it going to be, Ospreay or Hangman? It was like AEW now has a clear identity and a direction for its big show. The title change, I don't think could have come off any better. You peaked at All In Texas with Jon Moxley, losing the title to Hangman Page. And then afterwards, you had Moxley take this bold approach that he's going to lose all these matches by submission. And it ended up endearing him that much more and made him like Kyle Fletcher was my performer of the Continental Classic, but Moxley had the best story of the Continental Classic. And that really peaked with him winning the tournament. And I find Jon Moxley as compelling a figure throughout the year that AEW had. And it was quite the turnaround, because I don't think people were as high on Moxley a year ago when you were in the midst of all the Death Riders and at its House of Torture most annoying. So Jon Moxley was my pick for best character. Let's go to Davey as well.
I went for Timeless Toni Storm. I think, as Braden mentioned, she is kind of like The Undertaker, how she protects her gimmick. And I think last year especially, her promos, she was able to cut like quite deep promos whilst not sacrificing the character at all. There was one in particular I remember where she's on the balcony. It was one of the theater kind of tapings. I think it was a Collision, and she ends up going like outside and all that, and was just an incredible promo. And I think, the stuff with the famous promo with Mariah May and the sit down where she's saying about you'll leave and fade into mediocrity or whatever it was, which has kind of come true, as I see people saying Blake Monroe is a setback in the chat. But yeah, I think when this gimmick started, it really felt like she was playing this character. And now I think she just completely owns it and embodies Timeless Toni Storm.
Wait, best character.
I certainly echo a lot of what you said about Toni Storm as just a pure wrestling character. I think she's just incredible, and she's operating in a company that is just not necessarily known as much for, I guess, its gimmicks as they are for their in ring. But she arguably has the best gimmick, and because she does such a great job of living it, and every promo she does is so unique and entertaining and so creative. But she's not my pick. I also went with Jon Moxley because of the incredible last half of this year where he was able to just take us on from this ride from being, the Thanos of AEW. And somehow through the course of that Kyle O'Reilly feud, all through the Continental Classic, being able to just so, masterfully, I guess, baby facing himself, Like I think like a lot of people, we just assume, okay, All In would end, Page would win, and then the Death Riders would just disband. They'd kick him out. That's just kind of like logical. But they've dragged this thing out for so long and have somehow made it even more compelling that I think it's just down to like Jon Moxley being an incredible storyteller. And they're still dangling that, that breakup at some point and making us, I think, want it more and loving Jon Moxley more somehow coming out of it. So yeah.
Braden, was there enough time in the year for Udo Ice to get your pick?
Yes, I also picked Jon Moxley. I feel like the beginning of the year, I hated him so much, and I wasn't sure if it was because of the Cope feud or whatever happened with the Revolution main event, or was he just doing effective heel work so much that you said House of Torture? Like, that's how I felt about the Death Riders. And then by the end of the year, I can't wait to see him get his. I can't wait to see him lose at All In Texas. And then you said, like, almost post All In Texas was my favorite run, maybe in Jon Moxley's career, of this character, and had no idea that he would be tapping out to all these other wrestlers. You mentioned Kyle O'Reilly feud. That was awesome. But, like, Wei, you said you just assumed they're going to put the bag over his head the day after All In. And then no, it's like every week now I'm like, oh, what's going to happen with this story? Oh, which makes me realize I love this story and I can't wait to see where it continues to go. So yeah, the more I think of like what they did with, I think starting with the build to All In and definitely post All In, which I did not see myself being so invested into this character. I can't say I love a lot of what the other Death Riders have been doing in 2025, but they make good set pieces and background pieces for this main character. You said Thanos, like this big bad bald dude with an earring who I just want to see him get his ass kicked. But now by the end of the year, I'm like, I'm kind of in your corner now. So I also picked Jon Moxley.
I want to go to forum.postwrestling.com where a lot of people have left their picks. And for best character, people, a lot of choices for Tony Storm. One pick, at least for Yuto Ice. And then we have a lot more Tony Storm. Some votes for Hangman. And yeah, there we go.
I'd say someone like an Ethan Page as well deserves a shout out as well. Who
character
just
change.
Yeah,
This is who Jake from the Windy City. Jake from the Windy City says Ethan Page and Chelsea Green as the pro Canadian pair.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Throughout the month of January, you have the chance to lock in your subscription at the Post Wrestling Cafe for all of 2026 before the price increase takes effect February the 1st. Simply sign up before February 1st and you will lock in that price all year long. If that's not enough, this month we have the annual Best and Worst of show as we get together with the Poison Rana crew to look back at 2025. We're also doing live watch-alongs of the Royal Rumbles from 1990 and 1995 with Brandon from New Jersey, a retrospective on the Tanahashi-Okada rivalry, plus reaction to Wrestle Kingdom 20, a review of TNA's debut on AMC, and much more, including TNA Genesis, UFC 324. It's all found at postwrestlingcafe.com. Well, on the other side of the coin is worst character. So last year, what a collection we have here. Braden chose Wendy Chu. Davey went with Carlito. When we're talking about set pieces, that was pretty much Carlito's role. Wei had the Young Bucks as EVPs, and I chose Christopher Daniels. So those are our worst characters for the year. Let us start with Braden for worst character.
Worst character, one came out right away, and it snuck in at the very end of the year. You may listen to Up Next every Tuesday on Post Wrestling as Davey and I talk about NXT. And NXT, I feel like, isn't right to pick in worst of categories because it's kind of like Degrassi High. It's developmental. It doesn't count. However, if you put it on TV, it fucking counts. And there's a few characters that I cannot stand. For a short period of time, I got to shout out Joe Hendry Thea Hale. Don't know what the hell that was. Really hated it. I cannot stand whatever that was. I don't know what Jasper Troy's character is. I just know he walks around with
His
chains.
character is Undertaker and Booker T like him.
Right.
That's it.
And he's the old man Marley from Christmas Carol or something. But my worst character slid in at the very end of the year. I got a shout out. I'm sure he's a nice guy. But worst character goes to 4chan Bray Wyatt, Shiloh Hill. I'm sorry, John. I know you love him so much. But whatever I saw from this guy in those sit-down promos were terrible. You're telling me this is a dark web guy with missing teeth who played football? I don't give a fuck about this character. And then he had a Christmas Chaos match, which was possibly one of the worst matches I watched on television this year. So I'm sorry. I know he's super new, but starting off with a character that is basically a dark web, like I said, he's on Reddit and he thinks he's in a cult. I don't know what the fuck it is, but enough for Undertaker to tweet out toothless aggression. I hated it.
His gimmick is kind of also that Undertaker really likes.
Yeah.
His tooth falls onto Ariana Grace. Like that's his gimmick now, is the tooth falls out in inopportune times. It's
What even, like, he's on the web and he orders bloody like murder stuff. I don't know.
I was
so
really
bad.
like, for all the wrong reasons, really enjoying those segments.
I think we're on the same page.
Yeah.
in a way.
like, this guy's character evolution is he will deny the election result in 2028. I mean, I think that's where things are going.
Yeah.
All right, let's continue with worst character, and we'll go to Davey next.
Look, I don't want to kick a man when he's down.
Oh, geez. So this guy's injured?
Alex Abrahantes. Like, I've got to. I can't have a worst of show without just exercising this
Really?
demon.
Let him cook.
And this
Wait,
is
let him cook.
This is the last chance I have. But what the fuck is Alex Abrahantes?
What did he even do?
What does he do? Why is he wearing gloves and a leather jacket? And he's like, luchadors are cool. Lucha's fun. Like, Lucha's had a real rise, both CMLL and AAA. have really had a rise in 2025, and yet you stick this motherfucker with any luchador in AEW. I almost find it offensive. It's like, oh, you're Mexican? Let Alex come out with you. And it's like, you have, like, think back with the Lucha Brothers. They're doing all their cool poses. They look sick. Penda's got his makeup. They've got fire. And then you've got this loser doing the Zero Miedo, like, trying to get in the shot. Like, what are you adding? And I'm terrified that WWE's been holding off putting the Lucha Brothers back together until this guy's a free agent.
Penta
to, like,
says.
put the team back together. But man, he, like, every time he comes on the screen, I'm just yelling, why?
Like,
why? Like, what's his purpose?
Especially this year when I saw him come out with Bandito one time, I was like, how can you take away aura from this man?
Yeah.
It's this guy. Like, no disrespect to the man. I'm sure he's a nice guy. But
I think there's a bit of
Like,
disrespect.
I'm sorry. I know he lost his job recently. I'm sure he's a lovely chap, but
just doesn't- it don't make
does
sense.
not belong on wrestling TV at all. And I'm surprised he was there as long as he was in that role. I'm sure there's maybe backstage stuff he does, but he was not needed. He didn't even do translations. So why is he there?
Okay, he's dead, baby.
Yeah, he's dead.
He did kind of do translations, but
Wait,
I
like
mean,
What?
when he's
He did
coming
not
out to
hate
the ring
them.
with Commander, like what Commander
Yeah.
promo
He
has been
literally took,
translated?
like, luchadors are the sickest, coolest looking dudes, and somehow they managed to make them less cool with this guy. It's like, what?
I'm not going to repeat all the points because we kind of went over them all already, but New Day were the worst characters to me. I just think you took something that, listen, you can certainly... I think everyone was ready for a change in their characters. And again, people were very high on it, but man, did they have no follow-up this year. And it was just... I see no direction that these two have. And I'm pretty high on Grayson Waller. I think he's a great personality, and he's been sucked into all of this right now. I think that guy would be a lot more effective in the Austin Theory role, and you would flip these around. But he's attached to this going nowhere direction with New Day. So those are my that was my pick, plural, for worst characters. Way.
yeah, my pick for worst character this year. I think we have to be. I have to specify that I'm keeping it to the calendar year of 2025, because in 2026 he could very very well be my best character. But if we're strictly talking about his output in 2025, it's got to be toxic masculinity. Kit Wilson.
What a turnaround he's had in the first week.
Honestly, seriously, they must have just been waiting for the new year to turn around. But if we're strictly talking about 2025, the way they introduced this character was just through, I mean, a series of god awful backstage vignettes with Nick Aldis of a man just kind of shouting. I mean, you give this company a little bit of credit to, like, be a little bit more on the ball these days, and he just kind of came out with what really felt like just an incredibly dated and overly simplistic parody of, like, I'm guessing, like, a very liberal man. And
The signal chats among TKO executives, probably. These
It felt like Vince is back.
it's completely
these soy boys.
completely did, yeah. But you give him a great song, and you give him a really chantable, like, catchphrase, and that could really be all the difference. Somehow he managed. Anyway, I'm saving this for next year. But if we're strictly talking about 2020,
This might be the
Wilson.
worst to best character
Yes.
for Way in 2026.